Greetings, everyone. Salutations. This is Sam. Welcome back to Chess Club, Chess 101. Thank you for tuning in. All right, so this week we're gonna go over some common mistakes that we tend to make, or that I tend to see people make during chess. Even myself that I tend to make during chess. We're gonna go over like five of them. All right. So the first one we're gonna go over. Get the angle right. Pretty good. All right. So the first one we're gonna go over is leaving hanging pieces on the board. So this is usually when we leave like undefended pieces on the board um, that are easy to be taken by your opponent. This tends to happen when we rush our moves, or we move, at our opponent's pace, or we miscalculate our steps in chess. So let me show you an example of that, of leaving hanging pieces on the board. So let me show you an example. Let's say, and then I move here. My opponent moves there. And then, all right, so let's say this is an example. I move here, and then my opponent moves here. Okay, so there's an example of how. So we have the opponent's pawn on e5. So this pawn is unprotected. Currently is being attacked by my pawn on d4, and also my bishop on f4. So this piece is just standing on the board, unprotected, and is at risk of being captured. This is an example of leaving hanging pieces on the board. You know, appropriate move would have probably been to reinforce it or to just attack. But to just leave it as it was, unprotected, and at risk of being captured. To put you at a disadvantage. So to avoid, something like this, I would say to, make sure to reinforce your pieces and to always play at your pace, never rush your moves, so that you don't miscalculate or, jump the gun in certain moves so that, you don't uh, be taken advantage of in the situation, you know. All right, the second one we're going to go over is not thinking about your opponent's plan. you know. So while your opponent's making moves, not questioning their moves and just allowing them to just move freely, as they do, not questioning it and not even checking their moves, you know. So let me show you an example of that. So let's say I move here, my opponent moves there, I move here, there's that. Um, my opponent moves, I move here, my opponent moves there, I move here. My opponent's not really questioning my moves. It's not like, why did he move this queen here? It's not asking, why did he move this bishop here? Because if he did, he would see that all I have to do is make this move here, and it's checkmate. He's in check. He tries to attack with the king. My bishop put him in check. So he just put himself in checkmate without even realizing it, by just moving and not questioning the moves that I make. All right. You always want to ask yourself, why did your opponent make that move? To understand and to have a rebuttal for their move, and what can they do next from that move? You know. So, for example, let's say I move this here, opponent moves, then moved here. All right, he sees the first move, opening up the board. Then he me opening up with the queen. Opponent be like, okay, what can the queen do there? He knows they can attack forward, And then look at all the options and do process of elimination to determine what would be the best move for them in this situation or scenario. All right. And if you've seen that I move my bishop out, so you move that there, move my bishop out, then there'll be like a connection. Okay, the bishop can attack diagonal. The queen can move straight. If he moves here, then I'll be in checkmate. That'll be a bad move. From there, you can create, if I'm questioning my move, then you can create a defense to defend that. Make certain moves to defend and to stop me from imposing my will on the board. All right. So that was number two. Another mistake we tend to do on the board, I tend to make, or opponents I played against tend to make is, king safety, not protecting the king. What I recommend, early in the game is to look to castle. All right, I look to castle, whether it be castling. We've gone over castling in the last couple of last videos. Whether it's castle, king side, which is move the king over 2 spaces. Um, about 1 space, correction. Castle king side, move the king over. No, yeah, 2 spaces. Bishop over, rook over, sorry. Or the castle queen side. Move the king 1, 2, and 1, 2, and bring the rook over. Okay. So whether you castle king side or queen side doesn't matter, as long as the king is protected. When you castle, you want to make sure to not move the pawns that are in front of the king, because when you do that, you're exposing the king or creating room for your for your opponent to come in and attack or to put you in check, and put you in a worse situation that you need to be. Make sure your king is protected. Don't do not move those pieces in front of the pawns in front of protecting the king unless you need to. All right. All right. So number four, another mistake that I tend to see people make on the board, or that I've made in the past, um, is making random moves. You know, with no objective. Making random moves with no objective. Always know why you make a move. You don't want to just move pieces just to move it, because then you'll find yourself in a bad situation. Or put yourself in a situation where you can, opponent could take advantage of, and then put you in check or checkmate. All right, let me show you an example of that. Making random moves. Let's say, for example, I move here, to open him just cause my opponent moves here. I'm not thinking much. I'm just making moves just cause. Now my opponent has advantage of the center of the board. So then I'm making moves, just keep going with it. My opponent, but as I'm making moves, just cause my opponent is calculating their moves, they're now creating opportunities for themselves and taking control of the board. So you always want to know why you make a move, so that it's beneficial for you. Making random moves and not really thinking about why you're making the moves and just running off a limb is not really beneficial for you in chess. You always want to know what you're doing and be aware of what you're doing at every moment in time. Always be aware of what's going on the board, offensively and defensively. All right, the final tip that we're going to go over for the day is or mistake that I tend to make or seen other people make in chess. Um, my experiences is not looking at the whole board, just focusing and concentrating on a certain section of the board. When you're playing in chess, you always want to make sure to focus on every piece and focus on the whole board, so that you're always aware of what's going on. When you tend to focus on certain areas, you take away from your offense or defense, and it allows your opponent to take advantage of the situation. All right, let me show you an example of that. All right, so let me show you an example of that. Not looking at the whole board and only concentrating and focus on the one section. So let's say we have a chess game going. It's going out nicely. All right. Let's say you're focused on opening up only. So you're focusing on like right here, this section of the board. And slowly your opponent is, so you're doing that. So you're thinking, oh, maybe I want to make this move. your opponent allows, and then your opponent starts making other moves, putting you in check, and you're not quite, focusing on the queen here on the side attacking. You only focus on here, so you don't pay much mind to it. You move your king, so you move your king. When it comes through, moves that, and you're still, focus on controlling the center. Now you find yourself in a situation where you just lost your queen. Why'd you lose your queen? Because instead of looking at everything of what's going on, your main primary focused on controlling and focusing on the center of the board. This also plays a part of questioning all your opponent's moves. Always being aware of what's going on at the board. By asking yourself, why did they make that move, like we discussed. And then seeing from there. Once you look at your opponent's options, okay, my opponent moved their queen there. Like, okay, the queen can move. How does the queen move? Forward, the straight line, sideways, and diagonal. By doing that, questioning every move and how that piece can be beneficial in that space that they just moved in, you can then determine what your opponent's next move could potentially be. All right, so that's about the tips for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Next week we're going to try something different. We're saying we're going to try doing a Zoom video, so I'm hoping that you guys tune into that. I'm pretty excited to start that. Yeah, hopefully you guys tune in, and we'll go from there. Thank you again. This is Sam, Chess Club with Sam. It's Chess 101, and until next week, peace out. Peace and blessings, family.